I appear to be live? I'm not sure if I'm live. Oh, there it goes. Hi everyone, this is my stream. I'm trying something a little bit different. Today I'm reading this Wikipedia article, the list of common misconceptions. I read a lot of Wikipedia. Alright, there's an ambulance or a fire truck or something outside. Hope that's not too loud. Anyway, I read a lot of Wikipedia. It's one of my interests, along with watching animations and playing games. So I figured I would make something of this. This is an interesting article, or at least it should be, a list of common misconceptions. I haven't read through it in full, but I've read the list of categories. Looks pretty long. I consider myself to be quite knowledgeable and more credulous than the average person, so I'm thinking most of these misconceptions probably don't apply to me. But I'm going to test my knowledge, see what I do and don't know. And if I do happen to believe in any of the misconceptions listed herein, I am keeping track of that. I have this click counter. And here's the thumbnail I made for this video. Alright, let's get into it. Each entry in this list of common misconceptions is worded as a correction. The misconceptions are implied rather than stated. That's interesting. So really this isn't a list of conceptions, really. It's more of a list of conceptions rather than misconceptions. Alright, urban legends, moral panics, pseudoscience, yeah. Things of that nature. Let's start with arts and culture. Business. I would think business would be its own category, but apparently it's art. Legal tender laws do not state that a private business or person must accept cash as a payment. Right, yeah. Yeah, this bill is legal tender for all debts, public or private. Debts being an operating word there. Adidas is not an acronym for All Day I Dream About Sports. That is true. It is named after the founder, Adi Dassler. And he had a brother who founded another sportswear company. I forget which one, but Adi Dassler, wasn't he a Nazi? They should not be using his name to promote their brand. The common image of Santa Claus was not created by the Coca-Cola company as an advertising gimmick. All right, something is happening outside. Let me take a look. I'm hearing police sirens. I'm hearing a fire truck, but I can't see anything. They're around the corner. They're like somewhere else in my neighborhood, but far enough away that I can't see their lights or really know what's happening. Okay, yeah. Santa Claus. They're coming closer. Sorry. Alright, there's a big ass police car, probably like an SUV. There's a second one. Here comes the... Oh, is this the fucking fire? Is this a parade? Oh, it's a fucking Christmas parade. I forgot. They do a Christmas parade on my block every year. Or at least they used to. They haven't for the past, like, 2 or 3 years. Hi, Crepuone. Yeah, I was... Hi, Crepuone. Thank you for joining my stream. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. There's a My local fire department is doing a parade in the street. They were just blaring um their fire alarms out in the street. It's a thing they do every year. I forgot they were going to do it this year because they haven't for the past 2 years. Maybe because of COVID or whatever. So, um yeah, I've been trying to talk over them for the past few minutes. Now I think I can actually get into the presentation. Anyway, finally back to Santa Claus. Yeah. So he wasn't created by Coca-Cola, certainly, but his use in their advertisements did definitely play a significant role in how widely he's portrayed in media, and like his exact design with the robes. I don't remember the exact details. Food Theory did a video on this, but yeah. The Chevrolet Nova sold well in Central America. General Motors did not need to rename the car. While Nova means it doesn't go, Nova was easily understood to mean new. Oh, I get it. Okay. I didn't get that at first. Like, why would they need to rename the car? But that's funny. Nova, as in it doesn't go. All right. Netflix was not founded after Reed Hastings was charged $40 late fee. Right. Okay, I hadn't even heard of that story. Yeah. Okay, at no point did PepsiCo own the sixth most popular navy after a deal with the Soviet Union. The deal was proposed, would be traded for 20 decommissioned warships, but it did not take place because of the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Yeah, that's an urban myth I've certainly heard of. Now, I had never seen that definitively disproven. Like, I've never seen it demonstrated that no, while this trade was proposed, it never came to fruition. But I never actually believed in that misconception because it just sounds way too ridiculous. It's just like so beyond anything that could happen. How unbelievable that is. So I never even gave that misconception more than a chuckle. Searing does not seal in moisture. In fact, it causes to lose some moisture. All right. Twinkies can generally be considered junk food. Indeed. They have a shelf life of about 45 days, despite the facetious claim they can remain edible for decades. Let me think. All right, I guess I could say that I have believed in this misconception. I mean, it's tricky. Like I've never seen the figure that they can remain edible for decades, but I definitely would have thought they would be edible or at least fresh for more than 45 days. And the movie Zombieland, I think that's where I first heard of this myth. Because the guy Tallahassee, he says, these Twinkies, they have an expiration date, but I don't even remember what he says, but he says something to the effect that they would be good for a while, but not forever, and he needed to get some of them to stockpile. So I'm gonna add that to the clicker. That's one misconception I've been partial to. With the exception of perishables, properly stored food can be safely eaten past their expiration dates. Right. That's another food theory video about like how long you could survive in a grocery store. Like you could realistically survive a long time past and eat foods past their real expiration dates because they don't really like go rancid at that point. They just kind of really taste bad, and they're not as good to eat once they're expired. They might give you diarrhea, but not really kill you. Thank you, Matt Pat, for debunking so many conspiracies, theories, and misconceptions. Seeds are not the spicy part of chili peppers. Yeah. In the pith of the fruit. Turkey meat, yeah, whatever. Rice does not cause birds to die by inflating their stomachs. Yeah, how the hell would that even work? Like, yeah, rice absorbs a little bit of water, sure. It's not gonna fucking make your stomach explode. That's idiotic. Alright, millet. Millet and rice are basically the same thing in terms of absorbency. Like, if one can kill a bird, what the other would probably do the same. Banana-flavored candy does not mimic the taste of a popular variety of bananas. It tastes different because it is flavored with only one of the flavors, isomyl acetate. I guess I did actually believe in this myth. I have read that the flavor of the banana is based on the Gros Michel banana, which was popular in the 1930s, I believe, before it was wiped out by a blight through most of the Americas and Europe. Now, the Gros Michel banana is actually still grown in Southeast Asia. It's just not used as much in the West because of how susceptible it is to blights. So I guess I did technically believe in that fallacy, that misconception. I'm gonna add that to the list. I thought that may even be the same case. Like maybe isomyl acetate is also a flavor in the Gros Michel banana, and maybe that's why it was used as a flavoring in candies, even going back several decades. But I guess the main reason why it tastes different from the actual banana fruit that's now popular, the Cavendish banana, as it's called, I believe, is because it's only one flavor. It doesn't really have to do with any once popular variety. Shouldn't this be... Wait. Food and cooking, food history. Okay, they're two different categories. Fortune cookies are not found in Chinese cuisine. They were invented in Japan and introduced to the US. That is correct. Hydrox is not a knockoff of Oreos. This is like the third or fourth food theory video. And I'm only like not even a category deep into the vid. Yeah, they came first. Hydrox came first and Oreo copied them. George Washington Carver is the peanut man. He did not invent peanut butter. Invented by the Aztecs. Patent by George Harvey Kellogg. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that Kellogg patented the peanut butters before George Washington Carver. Potato chips were not... Yeah, that's a stupid myth. I never believed that. Spices were not used in the Middle Ages to mask rotting food. They were expensive. Yeah, obviously, spices were expensive. They were, like, imported from India and Arabia and other places. Steak tartare was not invented by Mongol warriors who tenderized meat under their saddles. What? I don't even want to imagine how that would happen. That sounds disgusting. Whipped cream was not invented by Francois Vatel. Who the hell is Francois Vatel? Like, okay, maybe that's like some famous chef or whatever, but like who is... First, like, how would that even be a common misconception in the 21st century? Like, who is going back to the 1600s to make up stories about the origin of whipped cream? Okay. Catherine de' Medici did not introduce Italian foods to the French royal court and create French haute cuisine. No, definitely. Italian food was never known in France before Catherine de' Medici. It was just never known about. No Italians ever brought Italian food to France before then. Not even in the hundreds, thousands of years that Gaul was occupied by the Romans. Never once did anyone bring Italian food to France, and thusly, Catherine de' Medici was the first person ever to bring it to France. And yeah, and French cuisine is a cheap copy of Italian food. Microwaves ovens are not tuned to any specific resonance of the water molecules. They produce a broad spectrum. Yeah. Okay. Microwave ovens do not cook food from the inside out. Right. They do not cause cancer. Microwave radiation is non-ionizing. Right. As much as South Park. It's a very funny scene with Randy puts his testicles in the microwave oven. That show is fucking disgusting, but yeah, that's obviously not how that works because it's non-ionizing. Microwaving food does not reduce its nutritive value. Nutritionous. And may preserve it better than other cooking processes. Yeah. Ronald Reagan was never seriously considered for the role of Rick Blaine in Casablanca. I've never even heard of him being at all connected to that movie. How old would he have been in there? 1942, that was like a lifetime ago. I don't know how old he would have been. He would have been pretty young, probably. Night of the Living Dead did not identify the undead as zombies. They were referred to as ghouls. Yeah, I've never... I don't remember that movie. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't remember them ever being called ghouls, but yeah. They weren't called zombies at that time. The zombie come from Haitian mythology. Yeah. 1932 movie White Zombie. Yeah, that's interesting. They were called zombies in Dawn of the Dead. That's cool. Walt Disney was not the first animated feature film. El Apostol, a lost 1917 Argentine film. That is very interesting. I would really like to see what that looks like, El Apostol. It is a lost movie, unfortunately, as most movies from that era are. But I wonder if there's even a still image remaining. Interesting. Wow, that's an interesting art style. Cool. Good job, Argentina. Yeah, even before Snow White, wasn't there something else? Wasn't there I don't know. I remember even thinking there was something else besides Snow White, although I hadn't heard of El Apostol until today. Language. Yeah, there's a whole other article about misconceptions of language. Being a linguistics major, I know all about that. There's quite a lot of things people think about languages that aren't quite right. The pronunciation of coronal fricatives in Spanish did not arise through imitation of a lisping king. Yeah. Okay, coronal fricatives. That is tha. Barcelona. Yeah, most modern Spanish speakers don't even do that. even in Castilian Spanish, like the pronunciation of coronal fricatives is not nearly as prominent as the textbooks make it out to be. Sign language is not the same worldwide. That is correct. Um, yeah, even like British and American sign language are quite different, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That they should be they should be standardized because like they were both adopted relatively recently and both are related to English in some ways, though obviously they're different. Like they have completely different grammar from English, although they are influenced heavily. At least as much as a sign language can be influenced by a spoken language. But there are other sign languages like there's one in Israel that like predates American Sign Language by centuries, and that was used by like an insular community in Israel. Um, yeah, Eskimos do not have a. Well, firstly, that's a slur. They should be called Inuits. Do not have a disproportionate number of words for snow. Um, a misconstruction of Franz's statement that they have a wide variety of words. Boas noted that it was true to a lesser extent in English. Okay. Yeah. That's something that was mentioned in my linguistics 101 class. That's a common misconception that is not true, obviously. The Hopi people have a concept of time. The Hopi language does have ways of expressing temporal concepts. Yeah. Yeah, I actually haven't heard of that misconception in relation to the Hopi people. I have heard that the Pirana language in South America has no way to express time, but that's of course not true either. Like they obviously have less vocabulary than English speakers have, but they can still express like night and day among other things because that's a pretty basic expression of thought. Of course, they would have a word for it. A Chinese word for crisis is not composed of the symbols danger and opportunity. The first one concerns danger, and the second means inflection point. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that misconception. The word gringo did not originate during the Mexican-American War, the Venezuelan War. That is a lot of wars, wow. It was not sung, Green Grow Rushes, sung by U.S. cowboys. This is a lot of false etymologies. It is original meant foreigner, a corruption of griego. That's interesting. Griego. So to the Mexicans, like white Americans in Mexico are like Greeks to them. Um, it's funny. Like the Pennsylvania Germans sometimes refer to the wider community of Americans as the English, um, which kind of makes sense because we speak English, and a large number of Americans in the Northeast are from English backgrounds. But yeah, that's kind of a big leap to go from English speaking Americans to Greeks. But it is on similar. I guess that's kind of a common phenomenon in world languages for a single foreign group to be seen as more generally like the larger group of outside peoples. I wonder if there's a word for that phenomenon. Irregardless is a word. Non-standard slang or colloquial terms are sometimes alleged to not be words. All words in English became accepted at a certain point in time. Okay, yeah, I get what the article is going for here. You know, linguists, um, at least modern linguists know, you know, to use what's it called, descriptive descriptions of language rather than prescriptive ones. Like, I don't have the authority to tell a native English speaker, no, you're speaking wrong. That's not a word. If they use a certain word that I don't consider to be proper, because they're a native speaker, they know how to use their own language. But still, I think that's not even the point. Like, obviously, people know that irregardless can be used as a word because, um, you know, a word being very loosely defined is like any complete unit of expression that can be understood to have meaning in a sentence. But, and in that case, yeah, irregardless can be called a word, but that's not even the point. Like, people who, what's the word? Like, people who criticize the use of the word irregardless are not criticizing it on the basis of it not being a word. They're criticizing it on the basis that it makes no sense. Because, the prescriptive form of the word is regardless. Irregardless should mean not regardless. It should mean regarding, because means like not, as in irreligious, not religious. So irregardless should be the opposite of regardless, but people use them as if they're the same thing, and that's just ridiculous. There's no reason to do that. It just leads to confusion. And so it's stupid. That should not be a word that anyone uses. Other examples include licit. I don't even know what that means. And funnest. Yeah, funnest. I consider that to be a sensible word to use because, prescriptivists will say that fun is a noun rather than an adjective, but people use it as an adjective. So funnest makes sense. More fun. When you say that was a fun game, fun is being used as an adjective. So yeah, fun can be both a noun and an adjective. So funnest makes perfect sense in my mind. African American vernacular speakers do not replace is with be across all senses, with no added meaning. Be marks the habitual grammatical aspect. People say that it don't be the way that it is, but it do. 420 did not originate from the Los Angeles Police Penal Code for marijuana use. Section 420 prohibits obstruction of access to public land. 420 started in 1971. San Rafael, yeah, I've read about that. That in itself is probably an urban legend. Like, so many people have retold slight variations of that story with different details, but yeah, if I am going to believe any etymology about where 420 comes from, this Raphael High School story makes a modicum of sense. The word crap is not a back formation of British plumber Thomas Crapper's name, nor does his name originate from crap. Crapper is a variant of cropper, one who harvests crop. Yeah, medieval Latin croppa. I knew that. That is funny. That this guy Thomas Crapper is often credited as the inventor of the toilet. He looks fancy for a plumber, but no, he did not invent the toilet either. The toilet. The word fuck did not originate. That's a fucking stupid false etymology. Like, who are the losers who make up these false etymologies? Like, do you have nothing better to do with your time? Like, than make up an etymology that is so obviously fake? The. I love the. It's just a funny word for some reason. I don't know. It's like just so vague and ominous. The was not pronounced as ye or spelled as ye in Middle English. Stock phrase ye old, derived from the character thorn, now represented the modern English th. Thorn and y were difficult to distinguish. The meaning that thorn superscript e and the ye. Oh, that is very interesting. Yeah, I have read that I did know that the was not pronounced ye in Middle English. That is something I knew. But I have read, I don't know if this is correct, but I have read that when Middle English or Old English transcripts were reproduced by French printers, either the French didn't have a tile for the letter thorn, or they didn't recognize the letter, and for some reason they replaced it with the letter Y. And I always thought that was weird. Like, why would you go from thorn to Y? They don't even look similar. But looking at this particular variant of the letter thorn, yeah, that does kind of look like the letter Y. So I could imagine that they would be confused to a typist who, or a printer who isn't familiar with the letter thorn. I don't know if this is even related, but at some point in English history, the word thou did go from thou to you. So that is a case, actually, of the fricative the changing to the approximant ya. I don't know if that was like if that was at all related to this. It's probably like an unrelated phonological process that happened at some point, but that's very interesting to think about. The anti-Italian word wop did not originate without passport. It is derived from guapo, meaning thug or dandy. Yeah, like, stop. Whoever's making up these stupid false etymologies, these are so fucking stupid. There is not I cannot think of a single instance of a vulgar slur or slang word that comes from an initialism. That is not how slang words originate. You know, slang words usually are shortenings of other words that may have obscure etymologies, but they're not initialisms. Like fuck. Like, comes from, like, old, what's it called? The, let me find it. It comes from Dutch or Middle Dutch fucking, or, yeah, Indo-European. Like, old, we're talking about old, morphemes. Like, never have I ever heard of any slang word that, or slur or curse word that comes from an initialism. Initialisms are a very recent are a very recent phenomenon, and they really don't play any significant role in making vulgar words. Like, initialisms are like used for technical law and technical law and scientific words. Like, they're not at all common in racial slurs or in curse words. So I don't know who would even be stupid enough to fall for such an obvious fake etymology. All right, I should really calm down. It's not a big deal, but it's stupid that if anyone even believes that. Xmas did not originate as a secular plan to take Christ out of Christmas. Right. X represents the Greek letter chi, Christos in Greek. Cairo symbol since the 4th century. Right. Kai Temas, 1551. No, that's older than I would have thought. They really use just one character to represent the entire name Christ. It seems like an excessive abbreviation. If I just saw the letter X in a Christian manuscript, I would never make the leap in logic to think that that's supposed to represent the entire name Christos. And you're not supposed to abbreviate the name Christ. You should type out his full name, Jesus H. Christ. That's a disrespect to the J man. It is rarely necessary to wait 24 hours to file a missing persons. Yeah, obviously. Like if you wait a full day, they are gone. You are not finding them. The first day is by far the most important day. 27 hours, not even. That is if you don't find them in the first 3 days, you're probably not finding them. Really, it's the first day that's most important. Twinkies were not claimed to be the cause of San Francisco Mayor George Moscone's and Harvey Milk's murders. What the fuck do Twinkies have to do with Harvey Milk's murder? How the fuck did anyone even make that up? That makes no sense. The U.S. Armed Forces have generally forbidden military enlistment as a form of deferred adjudication since the 1980s. Yeah. Yeah, some branches have specific regulations. Yeah, obviously you're not going to want to send a murderer out with a gun on a Navy ship or something. That's a bad idea. Maybe there are countries that have done that in the past. I don't know. But yeah, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Certainly in a time of peace. Like, if there were like a massive mobilization for a domestic war and like, regular people were getting drafted in, then like, I guess at a certain point you would want to get around to the murderers in prison, but like those should never be your first pick ever. The U.S. does not require police officers to identify themselves in a sting undercover operation. Claiming entrapment as a defense focuses on undue pressure. Yeah, those DEA they did Badger dirty. That guy said he wasn't. He said you have to say you're a cop if you're a cop, and he said he wasn't a cop, but he was a cop, and he did Badger dirty. That's not how justice should be played out in ABQ. Don't ever talk to cops. They will entrap you. They are not your friends. Crime in the United States fell between 1993 and 2017. That is true. And here is the statistic. Why do you have to break it down by gender? That seems unnecessary. They're following the same general trend. Like, what else are you going to break it down by race? Do we need to see that? No. We just need to know the general trend. That seems like kind of sexist and discriminatory. The First Amendment generally only prevents the government from restricting freedom of speech and religion. Yes, every single liberal on Twitter will tell you that. And anytime that, you know, some Republican right wing dip ass is complaining about being censored, they'll be like, sweetie, it's a private platform. Although I'm sure that's changed significantly since Musk took over Twitter. I don't even want to see the shit show that Twitter is currently. I haven't used that platform in months, and I have no interest in going back. But yeah, private platforms and shit. Everyone should know that, because obviously the Constitution applies to the government. That's what it's there for. The founding fathers did not write it with Twitter in mind. It is not illegal to shout fire in a crowded theater. This is used sometimes as an example of speech that is not protected. Right? That was from a Supreme Court case. I think the case was about telling people to resist the draft originally, but that court case was overturned. So even if that were what the justice was arguing, which maybe it was, I haven't read the exact wording of the court case. That was overturned decades ago. Neither the mafia nor other crime organization have used cement shoes. Yeah, there are only 2 documented cases of this used in murders. Yeah, the French army did use cement shoes on Algerians killed. My voice is getting tired already. Yeah, I wonder where that myth came from. I think Family Guy did a parody of it, but that definitely wasn't the origination of the myth. Maybe one of the Godfather movies. Okay, what else? They may not have their case dismissed simply because they were not read their Miranda rights. Right, that is true. That the Miranda rights really apply to evidence or testimonials that the defendant may have given while in custody. Miranda, that guy, I forget his first name, he was arrested on accusations of rape, and he did confess to it in custody, but that confession was later ruled out because he wasn't told his rights. But he was still convicted of rape because there was other evidence against him. So obviously the case wasn't dismissed simply on those grounds. Chewing gum is not punishable by caning in Singapore. What? Although importing and selling gum has been illegal, corporal punishment still being applicable. Chewing gum related have always been subject to fines. I did not know it was illegal to chew gum in Singapore. Or is it? Or is it just applying to the importation? In any case, I have not heard of that. I know Singapore has some freaking insane draconian penal laws. I have not heard of any relating to chewing gum before now. Many quotations are incorrectly attributed to people who never uttered them. Yeah, that's a pretty general statement, but yeah, that's definitely true. Once in middle school, we had an art project. We had to find a quote that we think is interesting and make a drawing about it. And they had us use this website to find the origin of the quote. The quote that I wanted to use was a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I looked that up on the website, and it said the originator of that quote was Napoleon Bonaparte. And of course, it didn't give any source for that quote. It just said, that's a Napoleon Bonaparte quote. And I thought to myself, now I kind of don't want to use that quote anymore. Isn't he like a killer and a slave driver of history? He's not a good guy. I don't want to be quoting him. I think I did even use the quote in the end. I think I just didn't list who it was quoted from. I wonder what is the origin of that quote. I think I've also heard it attributed to some Chinese philosopher. Frederick Barnard. Never heard of him. In the USA in the 20th century. Wow, that's more recent than I would have thought, actually. But yeah, obviously, yeah, a lot of quotes have been incorrectly attributed to people. Mark Twain, Einstein, Hitler, Winston Churchill, Lincoln, Shakespeare, Confucius, Kung Fuji, as he should be called, Sun Tzu, Buddha. Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein is named after the Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Yes. The creature himself is not called by that name in the novel. He's called the monster. However, later adaptations have referred to the monster as Frankenstein. This usage is well established. Some may say it's not erroneous. I do still think it's erroneous. Obviously, like, later adaptations are not the verbatim word of the author. Her verbatim novel should be considered the correct canonical form of the story, and so Frankenstein is not the monster, he's a scientist. Even Bela Lugosi is partial to that misconception. In some commercial, I forget what it was, he spoke to Boris Karloff and called him Frankenstein. I don't know if he actually believed in the misconception that was the monster's name, or if he was just joking. He was probably just joking. Wow, only 2 misconceptions about literature. I'm not going to go into the whole article about misquotations, because that would probably be boring, and I don't want to read that whole thing. What the hell is Mondegreen? Okay. The musical interval tritone was never thought to summon the devil, nor was it banned by the church. Okay, I've never even heard of that connection. Rock music. Yeah, I hate when rock music authors try to be edgy just for the sake of being edgy. Like if you're going to be controversial, make controversial songs. Don't just make up some stupid myth about this tritone notation. That's some nobody wants to hear about some nerdy musical notation. If you're going to be controversial, it should be about the lyrics. Mozart did not die from poisoning. He was not poisoned by Antonio Salieri. Yeah. 1979 Amadeus play. Okay, yeah, I've never even heard of that misconception. How do you pronounce that? The menu. Whatever. I hate French. I don't speak French, and I do not like the language. I'm assuming that's French. Is attributed to Johann Sebastian Bach, although it was identified in 1970s by Petzold. I don't know who that is. Anna Magdalena Bach. various composers in which it is found. Okay. Listening to Mozart does not enhance your IQ. Whatever. Mozart makes babies smart. That's what they say in The Incredibles. So it must be true. The minute waltz takes 2 minutes to play as originally written, okay? Minute meaning small and is not the noun of the same name, okay?
Minute. Minute.
Oh, it's just the pronunciation of the word minute. It's not even the music. I pressed that as thinking I was going to hear the waltz, but yeah, I know how to pronounce the word minute. Thank you for letting me know, Wikipedia. Edelweiss is not the national anthem of Austria. Made for the musical The Sound of Music. Land der Berge. Land am Strome. Edelweiss is also Austria's state flower. That's cool. The Beatles were not the first to experiment with the process of a Leslie speaker. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, they did not outsell the Beatles. They're the fucking Beatles. Yeah. Who would believe that? The Rolling Stones were not performing Symphony of the Devil. I can't speak. I cannot speak. Was stabbed by a member of the Hells Angels. Oh yeah, wasn't that stabbing referenced in American Pie? At Altamont Free concert. Where was that? Livermore, Cal. Yeah, I think that was referenced in the American Pie. Though I haven't heard any specific account of which song was being played, but apparently it was not Symphony for the Devil. Sympathy. My voice gets so tired, and then I just start speaking nonsense. Under my thumb. Okay. Concept albums did not begin with rock music in the 1960s. Okay. Sure. Phil Collins did not write In the Air Tonight about witnessing someone drowning and then confronting the person. I actually did believe in that misconception. Yeah, I was playing a trivia game with my cousins, and one of the trivias was like, which Phil Collins song is about watching someone drown? And none of us knew the correct answer, but then my cousin revealed the answer was In the Air Tonight, and I believed that, but apparently that's not true. Oh, that was also referenced in the Eminem song Stan. You know, Stan, this character, was on a long tirade against Eminem. He was like, you know that Phil Collins song In the Air of the Night? That guy, he saw that other guy drowning and he could have saved him, but he didn't. And then Phil saw him at the concert and you could have saved me that night, but you didn't. Why do I remember that? Why do I remember such a random anecdote about Stan by Eminem? Okay, that was a misconception I believed, though, because it just keeps getting reinforced. First it's my cousin and this trivia game, and now it's Eminem himself. Well, it's Eminem as Stan, so he's a reputable singer. You know, if anyone knows about Phil Collins songs, he ought to know, because music is his career. The historical Buddha is not known to be fat. Right. Buddhist folk hero. Yeah, Budai. He has a similar name. Maybe that's why this confusion was confused. Yeah. Despite numerous uncertainties regarding the life of Jesus, virtually all modern scholars agree that Jesus existed historically. The Christ myth theory is rejected as a fringe theory by virtually all scholars. And mystical views. Alright. I take issue with this. Yeah, I get that the Christ myth hypothesis is not accepted by the majority of scholars, but I would not call it a fringe theory. It is a very well established logical theory. It's worth consideration. It's not like something that should be outright rejected by historians. Yeah, obviously a lot of that history is unknown because, you know, records from that era are extremely inconsistent and hard to come by, but, you know, I still think it's a worthwhile hypothesis that Christ or was a fictional person, not real, because obviously the majority of the stories in the Bible are false. There was no person who walked on water and raised the dead and made fish and bread out of thin air. Those are obviously lies, so it's not a huge leap in logic to think that the rest of the story was fabricated. Now, maybe there was a person called Jesus of Nazareth, or I suppose they would have called him Yeshua at the time, but you couldn't possibly know that because there are no first-hand accounts from that time, and you know, all of the most of the accounts we have about him are obviously false. You know, and historians in ancient times weren't really historians in the modern sense. They were storytellers. You know, a lot of what they told and wrote down was greatly exaggerated. And, you know, the overwhelming majority of writings about this character, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, whatever you're calling him, were written hundreds of years after he supposedly lived. So how could you say that there's a well-established basis for him being a real person, and that, you know, the simple idea that he never existed is so fringe and false? Just I really take issue with that kind of thought process in the historical community. I think historians should be open to hypotheses that don't exactly line up with what they believe, especially when there's a dearth of first-hand evidence. Just to make a comparison, I'm going to compare Christ to Muhammad. There is a much more solid historical basis to believe that Muhammad was a real person, because you know he was a local warlord and slave trader in the Arabian Peninsula, and he came to prominence through his religious teachings, and a lot of people made accounts of him during his lifetime. And there's no ridiculous, impossible myth about his origin. He wasn't like born from a virgin birth or anything like that. He was just a normal guy before he became this prophet. And yeah, and you know, unlike Christ, you can actually trace Muhammad's historical family lineage. So that's an example of a person, a historical figure that some may call fictional, but was most probably a real person. And of course, a lot of the accounts of Muhammad as well as Christ are exaggerated and just outright fiction. He did not ride a donkey named Barak into outer space, but he was still probably a real person. unlike Jesus Christ. I see very little real, well-founded historical basis to think that Jesus Christ, Yeshua, was a real person. The Bible does not say that exactly 3 magi came to visit baby Jesus, or that they were kings, or that they were named Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, right? Or what color their skin was. Yeah. They are inferred because 3 gifts are described. It says there was more than one magus. Yeah, I knew that. The idea that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute was not found in the Bible. The misconception was due to conflation between Mary Magdalene and Mary of Bethany. There are too many Marys. Weren't they called like Mariah or something? I know the Jesus' mother was called Mariah. I don't know if these are like, which was Mary Magdalene even called Mary Magdalene in the Bible, or was it just Magdalene? I don't even remember. But yeah, a conflation with Mary of Bethany, the unnamed sinful woman. That is interesting. Did I believe that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute? It's tricky. I remember thinking she was a sinful woman, based on my understanding of the Bible. And I did also believe she was the one who washed Jesus's feet, although that's apparently not even correct according to this article. I guess I did kind of believe in that misconception. I'm adding that to the count, because, yeah. I mean, so much of the Bible is so extremely vague that you could rightfully conflate 2 completely different characters. But I did know that in popular thought, Mary Magdalene is thought to be a sinful character before she met Jesus. Possibly a prostitute, maybe not. But that was apparently based on some kind of conflation. Paul the Apostle did not change his name from Saul. He was born a Jew, with Roman citizenship. He had both Greek and Hebrew and Greek names. Saul, who is also called Paul. Okay, better call Saul. But he had 2 different names that happened to sound similar. I did not even know that Saul and Paul were the same person. I thought they were 2 different characters. Okay. So yeah, I did not know that there was any name changing, or even if there was any name changing in that case. Apparently there wasn't. He just had 2 names. The Catholic dogma of the Immaculate Conception is unrelated to the doctrine that Mary gave birth to Jesus and remained a virgin. The Immaculate Conception is the belief that Mary was free of original sin. Wow, I did not know that. I thought that Immaculate Conception was another word for virgin birth. I mean, it really should be. Doesn't conception mean like pregnancy and birth? So what would that have to do with her not having original sin? Whatever. Does not say that the Pope is sinless and infallible. Right. Okay. Canonizations meet their requisites. Yeah. True. The Pope is not considered to be always infallible. St. Peter's Basilica is not the Mother Church, nor is it the seat of the Pope. Right. I have read about that. I don't even remember. Where is the Pope's original official seat? The Vatican Palace. Okay. Yeah. I have read that, yeah, St. Peter's Basilica is not really the seat of the church. It's, yeah, members of, just call them Mormons. Just call them Mormons. Do not no longer practice polygamy. Well, I think some of them do. I think it's definitely a fringe practice, especially since the practice is illegal in the U.S. But yeah, the church excommunicates any member who. I don't believe that. I don't believe they actually excommunicate anyone just for practicing polygamy. But yeah, it is a fringe practice. It's definitely not widely practiced among the church. St. Augustine did not say God created hell for inquisitive people. Okay. This is a long-ass confusing quote. Okay. Yeah, I have never even heard of that quote. That is an interesting quote. Kind of reflective of the dogmatic nature of the church. You ask a question, you go to hell. The First Council of Nicaea did not establish the books of the Bible. It had already been established by Hebrew scripts before Christ. Yeah. Obviously, yeah, the books did. The books did exist before that time, but I still like to believe in that conspiracy theory just because it's funny. Like, yeah. Like, obviously, being ironic about it, knowing they did not actually establish the books. It's funny just to say that they did because it's like a funny conspiracy theory. Most Muslim women do not wear the burqa. They cover their hair and face with the niqab. Yeah. Yeah, hijab obviously is different from a burqa. Although they look very similar. I think it is completely fine to conflate the two things, even though they're technically different. But yeah, I knew they're different. It's just there are too many words for like there's just too many words for like these strict religious dresses. Just like if you're going to be, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Just like I don't even care about this subject. So a fatwa is a non-binding legal opinion. It is commonplace for fatwas to disagree. Indeed, yeah. Isn't there a scholar who issued a fatwa that it's acceptable to have a sex with a goat as long as you kill the goat afterward because the goat becomes sinful? Yeah, there's some wacky fatwas out there. The word jihad does not always mean holy war. It literally means struggle. Right. I've heard of that. Look, the Quran does not promise 72 virgins in heaven. It does not mention virgin female. It does mention virgin female companions to all people. Right. True. I mean, this is like, obviously I did not believe that you get 72 virgins in heaven because I don't even believe in Islam. I'm not religious. But did I believe that other people believe that thing, that misconception? I don't know, maybe. I've heard of the misconception in passing, but I've always thought it's too ridiculous to even be worth consideration. Like, where would you possibly get 72 virgins for every holy man in heaven? You couldn't. There aren't that many women. So it's just too ridiculous to even be worth a second thought, even if some people believe in it. The forbidden fruit is never identified as an apple. That is true. The original just says tree and fruit. Early Latin used the word mali, which can mean of evil or of apple. That's funny. Some Germanic languages have a cognate that means fruit, that can relate to apple. How the fuck would the apple be wheat? That makes no sense. Does wheat grow on a tree? No. What the fuck is an etrog? That is a weird looking fruit. Alright, this is taking way longer than I thought it would, probably because I keep stopping to look up obscure trivia. It is popular among the Jews, I will say that. Not many. There are not many fruits that will show you Hasidic Jews in their traditional hats examining fruits closely, just for the fact that the fruit is a fruit. Tattoos are forbidden in the Book of Leviticus. They are not barred from Jewish cemeteries, just as violators of other prohibited are not barred. Do I believe that? I mean, I know that there are some super strict stick up your ass cemeteries that will bar people based on random things like having tattoos, but I knew that that was not the general rule. I'm not even reading that one. That's just retarded. All right, step 1 to not believing in misconceptions. Don't be a complete fucking idiot, and don't believe in stupid misconceptions that have no basis. Baseball was not invented by Abner Doubleday, nor did it originate in Cooperstown, New York. Okay. Yeah, I knew that the origin of baseball was not very well documented and well attested. I don't know if this is true, but I've read that the only major American sport that can be definitively attributed to a single creator is basketball. The black belt in martial art does not necessarily indicate expert level mastery, right? Indicates competency of all basic techniques. Right. There are even in some martial arts there are even belts that go far beyond the black belt. The use of triangular corner flags is not a privilege reserved for teams that have won the FA Cup, as depicted in Twin Town. Never heard of it. Silent on the subject. Yeah. India did not withdraw from the FIFA World Cup because their squad played barefoot. Withdrew because insufficiently prepared. Yeah. They were prioritizing the Olympics. Okay. There is no evidence that violent video games cause people to become violent. Right. No link. True. Despite what Hillary Rodham Clinton has said on the subject. The so-called nuclear Gandhi glitch did not exist in the original Civilization game. Sid Meier said it was not possible because of the way the games were programmed. It was a rumor, and from Know Your Meme and TV tropes. Did I actually believe in that myth? No. I say that I didn't because it just seems like a stupid myth that wouldn't even be possible. Like, I have seen screenshots of the original Civilization game that purportedly show Gandhi becoming super violent, but in the back of my mind, I kind of always knew that was fake because, it used original, those screenshots used original dialogue that would not have existed in the game if there were no intention for Gandhi to become violent. The Japanese government did not ban Square Enix from releasing Dragon Quests on weekdays due to it causing school kids to cut class. That's funny. I wonder if that's an actual phenomenon that's happened. Is there a significant change in kids cutting class when Dragon Quest releases? That would be funny if there is. I think that was actually parodied in an episode of the anime Defrag. There was a release of a game parodying Dragon Quest, and a few kids cut class to get that game. I don't know if that was meant to parody a larger phenomenon of kids purportedly cutting class to get the game, or if it was just like a scenario made up for that one episode. How long have I been streaming? Am I live? I don't even know. Alright, apparently I've been live for 1 hour, 17 minutes. Not sure what this 2 hours, 8 seconds means. Okay, this is taking longer than I thought. Space Invaders did not cause a 100 yen coin shortage. The shortage was actually due to the production of 100 yen coins being low that year, and silver speculators hoarding or importing these coins. That's interesting. The claim originated from an advertising campaign by Taito. You know what? I have read myths that coin shortages in Japan were caused by arcade games, but I never read of any regarding Space Invaders. They were always either Donkey Kong or Pac-Man. The pyramids were not constructed with slave labor. This shows laborers were skilled workers and poor farmers. I mean, yeah, a lot of the workers on the pyramids were paid, but there was definitely some extent of slave labor in the construction. Considering how prevalent slavery was in ancient Egypt, there was definitely some slavery involved, whether it was in the sourcing of the materials or the transportation. But yeah, maybe the exact artisans who cut the stone, maybe those guys were paid skilled laborers. Ancient Greek and Roman sculptures were painted with colors. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. What would the misconception even be? Like, is there a misconception that sculptures were never painted just because their modern surviving sculptures don't have paint on them? Like, how would that even turn into a misconception? I feel like if you look at a modern Greek sculpture, you're not even thinking of paint. Like, if the paint isn't visible and you don't happen to know that they were painted in the past, you're not even thinking of paint. So how would that become a misconception that they were never painted? Tutankhamun's tomb is not inscribed with a curse. This was a media invention. Okay. The Greek did not use the word idiot to refer to those who did not vote. It was simply a private citizen. That's funny. If it were referring to someone who doesn't vote, that would be kind of... I mean, I don't think it was really a choice who got to vote in that ancient Greece. It was really just the rich landowners. So, yeah. Stupid or mentally deficient. Okay. The Roman salute was not used in ancient Rome. Then why is it called the Roman salute? Yeah. Notably referenced in the Nazi salute. Let me think. Did I actually believe that it was from ancient Rome? I mean, this is turning out to be more complicated than I thought. I thought it was going to be a simple matter for me to determine whether or not I believed in a misconception, but there's frankly a lot that goes into it. I mean, I guess I did believe that the Nazi salute was based on an earlier salute, possibly used in Rome. But did I believe it was ancient? I guess I did believe it was an ancient Roman. You know, this is a subject I haven't really thought about in detail, but when I really think about how I've thought about it a little bit in the past, I do kind of see that I was liable to the misconception despite not really thinking about it a whole lot. And I am going to use the toilet, which was not invented by Mr. Crapper. What am I up to? Vomiting was not a regular part of Roman dining. True. Vomitorium was the entranceway. Yeah. Yeah, it's had nothing to do with vomiting. Julius Caesar was not born via cesarean section. Yeah. Do you think they did successful cesarean sections in, like, ancient Rome? That procedure wasn't considered safe until, like, the 1800s. That's a super dangerous, just very intensive procedure, even if they didn't have modern medical equipment. They couldn't have done that in ancient Rome. Yeah. The death of Greek philosopher Hypatia was mainly a result of her involvement in a bitter political feud, not anyone's religious views. Her death had nothing to do with the Library of Alexandria. All right, this is just a list of names that I've seen: Hypatia, Orestes, Cyril, Bishop Cyril, Alexandria. I have never heard of any of these names being connected in some kind of feud. These are just characters I'm very passingly aware of. So, yeah, I had no idea about what caused Hypatia's death. Scipio Aemilianus did not plow over the city of Carthage and sow it with salt. This is an erroneous article in the 1930s Cambridge Ancient History. I mean, it would have been extremely based if he had done that, because honestly, fuck Carthage. Hannibal wasn't even a very skilled general. He killed like half his men just trying to cross the Alps. Screw Carthage. It would be unfathomably based if they had if they had assaulted the land just to dunk on Carthage. Common Carthage L. Misconceptions about the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages were not a time of ignorance, barbarism, and superstition, and the Church did not place religious authority over personal experience and rational activity. Wow, that is a huge generalization. Like, the Church did not place religious authority over personal experience. I would definitely not go as far as to say that. Like, what about, what was his name? Bruno. Wasn't Bruno, like, tortured and then burned to death just because he believed the stars in the sky have their own planets? Yeah, I would definitely say that is an example of the Church putting religious authority over personal experience. Those were some pretty fucked up times in Europe. I mean, maybe they're not as dark as some people have made them out to be, whatever that even means, but yeah, the Church was, they killed a lot of people for not the best reasons. So, modern much life expectancies are higher than those in the Middle Ages. Yeah. What is even the misconception here? Like, who, everyone should know people lived less years in the Middle Ages and in the past in general. You know, it's only like in the past decade or so that the past 1 or 2 decades that the average life expectancy has started to drop in the developed world due to poor diet, among other things. There is no evidence that Vikings wore horns on helmets. Right. Ancient depictions of horns on helmets were referring to gods and other mythical figures, not to common Viking soldiers. Vikings did not drink out of the skulls of their vanquished enemies. Well, it would be very based if they had. Mistranslations of the poem or Bugvivum Hausa. I have no idea if that's how that's pronounced. Drinking horns. They did not name Iceland as a ploy to discourage people from settling it. Right. That's just a funny myth. Greenland, on the other hand, was named in hope of attracting settlers. That much is true. They actually did want to attract Viking settlers to the land. In the tale of King Canute and the tide, he did not command the tide to reverse. His intent was to provide a point to the members of his privy council that no man is all-powerful. I've never even heard of that story, but okay. Marco Polo did not import pasta from China. The Macaroni Journal. Why is there an entire journal dedicated to pasta? Yeah, he did not import it from China. There's no evidence that Iron Maidens were ever used for torture or even invented in the Middle Ages. I knew that. Instead, they were pieced together from artifacts. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know where they came from. Who made up that idea? If they were ever based on any real artifacts that may have existed. Spiral staircases were not designed in a clockwise direction to hinder right-handed attackers. While they were more common than anti-clockwise, Um, they were even more common in medieval structures without any medieval military role. That is interesting. I guess I did actually believe in that misconception. I did believe that a significant number of spiral staircases were made with the intention of hindering right-handed fighters. Plate armor did not stop soldiers from moving around or necessitate a crane to get into them. A crane? How would you use a crane just to get onto a saddle? That would be extremely impractical. Yeah. Armor used in tournaments was heavier than that in warfare. That's interesting. Whether or not chastity belts has been disputed by historians. Right. Yeah, deliberate fakes or just like gimmicky devices. Medieval Europe did not believe that. I need less light in here. That's enough light. Did not believe the earth was flat. Right, the earth has been known to be round. How does the earth being flat argue against Catholic teachings? I don't know. I don't care either. That's not something I care to research at this time. Here be dragons on the map. The only maps from that era that have that phrase are the Hunt Lennox globe and the Austrasia globe. Here are lions. Yeah. They did occasionally draw sea monsters and dragons and the like. Elephants. Those are an exotic species. Yeah, I had not heard of the phrase "here be dragons," so that's not something I believed. Columbus's efforts to obtain support were not hampered by belief in a flat Earth. They were worried that the East Indies were farther than he had reached. Yeah, if North America had not been there, or the Central America, wherever he landed, he would have died long before he got to Asia. He would have starved on his way there due to a circumference being miscalculated. And Columbus wasn't even his real name. He was called Christopher Columbu in the Ligurian language. Christopher Columbu. And he was not the first European to reach the Americas. Leif Erikson... The fuck? Vinland? Like as in Vinland sagas? Wow. Leif Erikson inspired Vinland sagas. Very cool. It's like one of my Japanese animes. Yeah. It is unlikely that the Black Death were caused by rats. Right, it was caused by fleas. And lice, apparently. Well, the fleas were on the rats, maybe. Maybe that played some that might have played some role in the spreading, but it was definitely the fleas more so than anything else. The Mexica people did not mistake Hernan Cortez for gods. Yeah. White men walking around thinking people see them as gods. You're just some basic white boy. The early settlers in Plymouth Colony usually did not wear black, and their hats were shorter and rounder than what is widely depicted. Right, yeah, those buckle hats, those are not historically accurate. Their fashion was based on the Elizabethan era. Okay, yeah. Apocryphal. Newton himself said that the idea came to him in a contemplative move and was occasioned by the fall of an apple. I don't know what exactly he meant by that, but yeah. Nobody's going to get the idea to study gravity just because they see an apple fall. Like, apples fall every day. That's not a significant thing that would give anyone a certain burst of inspiration. People accused witchcraft were not burned at the stake. Executed by hanging. Holy fuck, they pressed him to death by stones. That's fucking horrible. Yeah. There's some fucked up shit in history. But yeah, they weren't burned to death. They were most commonly hanged. Marie Antoinette did not say let them eat cake. The phrase was published in Rousseau's Confessions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't actually say that. George Washington did not have wooden teeth. No, his teeth were made of a bunch of different things that are like slave teeth and I think even lead. I think he had lead in his mouth. Yeah, they used fucking lead. I have read that they used hippopotamus teeth. That's probably completely false. Where would they get hippopotamus teeth in the Americas? The signing did not occur on July 4th after the Congress voted. It was on August 2nd. Okay. I knew the dates did not line up exactly. I would not have thought it was as late as August 7th. I would have thought it was earlier than that. Benjamin Franklin did not propose the wild turkey as a symbol of the United States. A moose. That's funny. I never knew he wanted a moose. Yeah, he never expressed that sentiment publicly. There was never a bill to make German. Going back to whether or not I believe that, I did not believe that he made any serious movement to make the turkey the national bird. Yeah, it might have been something he thought, but like, yeah, he never really tried to make that a thing. There was never a bill to make German the official language. That was defeated by one vote, right? True. Yeah. I mean, there were some local governments that operated in German for a long time up to the First World War, maybe even later, but yeah. German was a very commonly spoken language, but it was not something that they never had this vote that was defeated by one vote, certainly. The great majority of people in U.S. government were English speakers. Napoleon Bonaparte was not especially short. Right, that is known. His height was average. Wasn't there like a painting where they drew him as short and that led to the misconception? Le petit caporal moniker was used as a term of endearment. Okay. The nose of the great Sphinx of Giza was not shot off by Napoleon's troop. Yeah, how would they even do that? It has been missing since the 10th century. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexico's Independence Day, but a celebration of the victory over the French. Yeah. Why did the French even invade Mexico? Wasn't it over like some unpaid debts? Victorian era doctors did not invent the vibrator. Albert Einstein did not fail mathematics as a child. Before I was 15, I had mastered differential and integral calculus. He did fail the first entrance exam to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School. Okay. Yeah. I knew that he did well enough in school. Okay. Alfred Nobel did not omit mathematics from the Nobel Prize due to a rivalry with Gustav Mita Leffler. They never met. It was because his spouse had an affair, and it was not because of that. He was never even married. Who's making up these ridiculous ideas? Too theoretical. Too theoretical. What? Okay. Didn't he like make the prize as a way to distract people from the fact that he made explosives that were used in war, and he wanted a good legacy other than explosives, and the explosives killed his brother too. And yeah, he wanted people to remember him for doing something good. Benito Mussolini did not make the trains run on time. Yeah. Much of the repair work had performed before he and the fascist party came to party. Yeah. Yeah, and it was exaggerated. They were never that well on time anyway. There is no evidence that the Polish cavalry used lances and sabers. The story may have originated from German propaganda. Okay. I mean, I don't know what you're really accomplishing by saying that the Polish are using lances and sabers against tanks. Like, obviously that's futile, and it shows how desperate they are, but it's not like, I don't think that's going to do anything to make the German people think you're on the right side of the war. Like, if anything, it makes the Polish soldiers seem like they're valiant. They're defending their land with valor. During the occupation of Denmark, Christian of Denmark did not thwart Nazi attempts to identify Jews by wearing a yellow star. Jews in Denmark were never forced to wear the Star of David. Right. True. Leon Trotsky was not killed with an ice pick. But with an ice axe. Alright, well, it's a semantic difference. Yeah, I did know that the ice axe looks something similar to this, but I mean, one could reasonably call that an ice pick as well. There's really not a big difference between the two. John F. Kennedy's words, "Ich bin ein Berliner," are standard German, and not true that it was not true that he left out an indefinite article. Okay. Is a Berliner a type of jelly donut? I don't even know. Oh yeah, it is. That's funny. Imagine if he had said "I am a jelly donut" in front of the German people. That's funny. I had never even heard of that myth, but that is funny. The Moscow-Washington hotline was never a telephone line, nor was it a red phone line. Teletype equipment, okay. Facsimile. Yeah. I've never known any specific details about that hotline, whether it was a telephone or something else. Not all skinheads are white supremacists. Yeah. Not particularly racist. Skinheads against racial prejudice culture in the 1950s working class. Yeah, I knew that. The skinheads were a group that came up in the British subculture. Yeah, for shock value. Punk bands are so fucking cringe. Like, if you're gonna be edgy, actually make edgy songs. Don't just, like, throw Nazi imagery in there for no reason. Russia does not explicitly have an Independence Day. Yeah, what would they even be independent from? Aren't they, like... They're the ones that oppressed other countries in the area. Alright. Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves in the U.S., nor did it make slavery illegal. Applies to the 10 states that were still in rebellion and did not recover. Right. I knew that. Why is this bottom part of Louisiana blue? I don't know. Juneteenth is the anniversary of the announcement that the Union Army would be enforcing the Emancipation Proclamation in freeing slaves in Texas, not the United States at large. Yeah, that's just a continuation of this misconception. The Alaska Purchase was generally popular among the public and the press. They were the minority opinion at the time. Yeah, I knew that. They got it for dirt cheap. Like, obviously, that land wasn't a super helpful asset to the U.S. at the time because of how there were basically no Americans in the land at the time. But, you know, any reasonable person knew it was a good idea to get that huge amount of land for a low cost. You know, eventually they would get around to the natural resources and the minerals in the area. Cowboy hats were not initially popular in the American frontier. Derby and bowler hats were typical headgear of choice. Yeah, I think I knew that, actually. Boss of the Plains. Yeah, I've seen pictures from the Old West that show people with bowler hats. You know what? I'm gonna put my bowler hat on right now just for the heck of it. Yeah, these are some sharp, good-looking hats. I understand why they were popular. Did my head shrink? This feels so much bigger than I remember it being. I haven't worn this hat in like a couple weeks, but really since, yeah, I haven't worn this hat in a while. Why does it feel so big? Like, this always felt very comfortable on my head, but now it's like sinking down. Anyway. The Great Chicago Fire was not caused by Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicking over a... Who the hell is Mrs. O'Leary? just some random ass person, but well known enough to be known by a single name, apparently. Irish immigrant who became famous. Okay, yeah, just some... Not even famous for something that actually happened, just famous because of this misconception. Okay, what else? There is no evidence that Frederick Remington telegraphed William Randolph there will be no war. Please, if Hearst remain, please remain. You furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war. Yeah, I have no idea who those people are. What war would have happened in Cuba? Was that the Spanish-American War? Immigrants' last names were not Americanized upon arrival at Ellis Island. They kept no records other than checking ship manifests, and there was simply no paperwork that have left them interesting. Anyone could change anyone could change the spelling of their name simply by using. That is interesting. I did actually think that the record keepers on Ellis Island had kept legal documents that would have been considered legal records of people's names in America. So, yeah, that is a misconception I had believed. Prohibition did not make drinking alcohol illegal. The production, sale, and transportation. Right. I knew that. Distraught stockbrokers did not jump to their deaths during the Wall Street crash. I mean, I'm sure some of them did. The source of this myth is Winston Churchill's account of a man jumping the Setovi Plaza Hotel. He was a German tourist. I mean, I know that was never a widespread phenomenon, because, why would you jump from a window just because the stocks fell? That's freaking insane and ridiculous. Like, you might as well just keep living, see what happens. But yeah, I mean, maybe a few people did that. I don't know. I don't know how much I believe that, but there was no widespread outbreak of panic due to the radio adaptation of War of the Worlds. Yeah. Yeah, only a few people were listening to it, and, yeah. Who would believe that ridiculous lie? No reasonable person. Certainly not enough for it to be a widespread panic. Kenneth Arnold did not use the term flying saucer to describe a UFO sighting. Right, I remember. This was an episode of Ancient Aliens. The object flew like a saucer. How does a saucer fly? Do you just throw a saucer and it flies? Yeah. But yeah, that was a misconception that some people believe. George Smathers never gave a speech to a rural audience describing Claude Pepper, I have no idea who that is, as an extrovert. What? Okay. That's kind of stupid, but I guess it's kind of vaguely funny. This is a long ass. This is a long ass article. I don't know if I'm going to even be able to get to the end of this. I'll get at least to the end of this section. Rosa Parks was not sitting in the front. Right, yeah, she was sitting in the colored section, but the white section filled up, and a white passenger wanted her to move to take her seat. True. Dubois did not renounce his U.S. citizenship while living in Ghana. His membership of the Communist Party did not renew his passport while he was in Ghana. Okay. Yeah. I had never even heard of him being in Ghana. Where was he even? Wasn't he from the Caribbean or somewhere? No, he was from Massachusetts. I'm thinking of someone else. When Kitty Genovese was murdered outside of her apartment. Yeah. Yeah, that was an exaggeration. There were certainly not 37 people. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely instances of people, like large numbers of people walking by a murder site and not reporting it. Like there was a homeless man who was stabbed to death in New York City, just like on some very much trafficked street corner, and no one reported it for hours. But this Kitty Genovese story, that was not a true example of that phenomenon. The Pruitt-Igoe housing project, considered the epitome of failures, was demolished in the 1970s. I have never heard of that project. Women did not burn their bras outside of Miss America contest. They threw bras in the trash. You know what? I have seen pictures of women burning bras and putting them in garbage cans, but I've never read that it was in connection to the Miss America pageant. Oh, I skipped one. Okay. Okay. Despite being the origin of the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid," Kool-Aid was not used. Right? They used Flavor Aid during the Jonestown mass suicide massacre. All right. Okay. Yeah, it's been right around 2 hours. Let me just check how long this is. You know what? I'll read through the astrology. There is no scientific evidence that the motion of the stars affects the fates of humans. This was definitely written by a Scorpio. Astronauts appear to be weightless because they are in free fall, not because they are far away, that the gravitational pull is negligible. Yeah, obviously the space station is within Earth's gravitational field. If it weren't, then it would just fly out into space. Like even the moon is in our gravitational field. So, but it's traveling far enough, fast enough that it's essentially in free fall, which is why they feel negligible gravity. Yeah. The dark side of the moon receives about as much sunlight. Right. We just call it the dark side because it's the face that's not facing the Earth. But the Earth is always moving around the sun and the moon around the Earth, so it works out that the dark side gets a good amount of sunlight as well. Black holes have the same gravitational effects as any other equal mass. Right. Right. The only reason why they're so powerful in terms of gravity is because they have so much mass. If the sun were replaced with a black hole of equal mass, the planets would be largely unaffected. That is a very interesting idea. That would be very scary. Seasons are not caused by Earth being closer to the sun in the summer. Right. In the North American summer, the Earth is actually relatively far away from the sun. Relatively. There's not really a huge difference, but it's caused by the tilt of the Earth. When a meteor or spacecraft enters the atmosphere, the heat of entry is not primarily caused by friction, but by adiabatic compression of air. Wow. I'm gonna be honest, I don't exactly understand how adiabatic compression works, but yeah, just friction alone would not generate nearly that much heat. Egg balancing is possible on every day of the year, not just the vernal equinox. What the fuck is egg balancing? Does that just mean the ability to balance an egg? Like, obviously that's something you can do at any time, anywhere. Obviously that has nothing at all to do with the vernal equinox. Like, you have to be an idiot to believe that. The official space pen was not commissioned by NASA at the cost of millions of dollars. Right, it was independently developed. I knew that. And the Soviets did also use space pens after that point. Oh yeah, it says it right there. The Soviets used subsequent space pens. Tang, Velcro, and Teflon were not technologies developed by NASA, although NASA developed some other technologies like memory foam and space blankets. I think they also developed microwave ovens. The sun is actually white rather than yellow. I knew that. The atmospheric scattering causes the sun to look yellow. The Great Wall of China is not the only thing visible from the moon. City lights are visible. Yeah, that's obviously true. If you look at a space photograph, you can see the lights. Although the lights aren't really a structure, they're just lights. The Big Bang model does not fully explain the origin of the universe. It does not how energy, time, and space were caused. Yeah. It's basically just like a reconstruction of how like the universe expanded based on the background radiation, among other evidence. The redshift as well. That's another piece of evidence, but it doesn't like explain where matter and energy came from. All right. This has been a very long video, and I'm not even close to being done. I'm going to continue this tomorrow, and who knows how many more days later than that. Thanks you. And stream, please.